Living Adventurously is brought to you in partnership with Komoot, the route planning and navigation app that helps you make the most of your outdoor adventures. Whether you're cycling, hiking, running, or bike packing, Komoot's easy-to-use technology will get you out the door and exploring more of the great outdoors. You can see where I've been exploring by checking out the highlights of my journey on Komoot. Just follow the link in the show notes. My name is Alistair Humphreys. I set out on a bicycle journey around Yorkshire to speak to interesting, ordinary people who, in very different ways, are making an effort to live adventurously. I wanted to talk about what they do, about the barriers they've faced along the way, and to seek their perspective on some of the big questions that all of us encounter in our lives. Welcome to Living Adventurously. I've written here, needs intro music. Okay, here we go. That'll do. The rain was hammering down when Hetty Key and I took refuge in a cafe to talk about women in adventure. I wanted to know what's limiting more women from getting into the outdoors, as well as the benefits experienced for those who do. Hetty is an adventurer. She's worked in the outdoor industry. She's an endurance athlete, and she's also a massive data geek. I've never met someone interested in the outdoors who has such a wild love of spreadsheets. What does living adventurously mean to you?
Oh, that's a big question. I think adventure is being out of your comfort zone. And so living adventurously to me is, it's not, you know the types of fun, sort of type 1 fun, type 2. It's not always being sort of uncomfortable, but it's consistently trying to push yourself just out of the comfort zone into that. I think it's quite an exciting bit. I think there's definitely challenging moments and really enjoyable moments, but it's just being out of your comfort zone and kind of going and doing the things that when you first think of them, you think, oh, I don't know if I can do that.
Okay, so give me an example from your life of an adventure you've had that does not include being in the mountains, etc.
I think, so about 2 years ago, I was quite short on time. I was doing a lot of work and my kind of work-life balance had gone down the drain pipe, so to speak. And a friend and I made a pact that at 7 a.m, once a week, we were going to try and slowly get into a river near us, because both of us were actually quite nervous about the concept. Like, water fascinates me, don't get me wrong, but I would not have jumped in a river. Like, open water was terrifying. It was, you know, all the monsters on the bottom, like the feeling of the ground on your feet, like the whole thing, like completely, it was very out of my comfort zone. But actually every week, we went every week at 7 a.m, and just gradually, the first time I think I went and like up to my knees and I was like, oh, I'm good, that's enough. And actually we kept going, and I think we started in October, and actually by February we were still going.
You went through the winter?
Yeah, we went through the whole winter, and it's totally changed my outlook and perception on water. And actually it's something I still do a lot and really, really enjoy. But that was definitely adventurous.
Okay, I agree. What about moving from having a proper job to not a proper job? Tell me what you've done recently.
That's an adventure. So recently I took the decision to leave my full-time job at Rab Equipment and actually pursue my research through a company called Women in Adventure.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Women in Adventure a lot, but I want to pick you up here on the leaving your full-time proper job to going to being freelance or essentially, in honesty, having no job at all.
So
tell me a bit.
Sounds alarming when you put it that way, but
it's alarming for a lot of people. There's a lot of people who would love to do it, but so tell me about the pros and cons of that.
So I think the really important thing to remember or to note is that I didn't just do this overnight. I didn't wake up and think, I'm gonna go and speak to my boss and say, I quit. It definitely wasn't that. This evolved over maybe about 3 years of just, I've always had a really strong interest in learning about women in the outdoors, and actually even simpler than that, just learning. And so something that started as curiosity and a hobby just grew and grew and grew very organically, and I couldn't drop it. I couldn't leave it. And every opportunity where I was like, if I, nice concluding point, if I maybe finished here, then I could have a lot more free time and it'd be, life would be very easy. But actually the curiosity every time got the better of me, and I just kept going back and doing more and learning. And it gradually grew to a point where I felt, actually, I really need to assess, again, the work-life balance. I need to look at this, and actually, I think viably, there's enough research and enough to do here that this is a full-time job. And I looked at my annual leave and how much of it had gone towards sitting in front of a computer looking at spreadsheets, and I looked at maybe how often I was getting outside, and realized that although I loved everything I was doing, I really enjoyed my job at RAB. I loved the research I was doing, and I also am on the organizer of a climbing festival, and I really, really enjoyed that too. But there is something to be said for knowing when you're at your limit and knowing how long maybe managing all of that was sustainable. So I knew I had some decisions to make.
Okay. So you had these hobbies and passions that stayed and grew and wouldn't go away, and you just kept pushing them and pursuing them until you got to a point when something had to give, essentially. You got to the point where you thought, right, there's just too much to do here to carry on with the job.
And actually, I was so motivated and driven by, I know we're talking about the kind of the research in a bit, but the number of women that got in touch and the number of stories they shared and how inspirational they were, I just felt that there was so much. There was so much to look at, so much to research. I really wanted to do them justice, the women that had responded. And I think sometimes when it comes to surveying and asking questions, yes, you get the answer to your question, but then you end up with 100 more questions.
Yeah, it's definitely true. Okay, go on then. Tell us then now about the survey you did that started all this off. And this is actually how you and I first got in touch, was through your survey. So tell us, give me a brief summary of what that was about.
So, rewinding to the beginning, the first Women in Adventure survey looked at inspiration, barriers to participation and goal setting for women.
In adventure.
Women in adventure. And I know, so adventure is we started the conversation talking about what is adventure. That is a broad term. And actually, I really wanted with this for people to interpret that how they felt. If you love the outdoors and you love enjoying the outdoors and you engaged with the topic, I wanted people to feel they could fill this out.
So what sort of questions were you asking people about women in adventure? What are the kind of questions you were interested in? So
the most recent survey, which is probably one of the areas I'm most passionate about, looked at mental well-being in the outdoors. So what I wanted to do, I think instinctively, when we go outside, we all talk about how good it makes us feel. You come back from a run or a ride or a bike, or even just going and watching the sunset, and you say, I feel so much better for getting out. That's really cleared my head. There's all this kind of feeling, intrinsic feeling that the outdoors helps our mind, body and soul. But actually, when it came to the data, there wasn't very much out there. And one of the drivers to me was to be able to put accessible information behind this. I thought that would really give the opportunity to, say, activity providers and initiatives that are helping women in the outdoors and their mental well-being to prove their worth and to say, look, this is what we're doing, and this is the data that shows it's incredible. And that was a huge driver for me, as well as the curiosity. And then on top of that, I felt that brands and organizations are really trying to sit up and listen and act. And whilst that is absolutely incredible, I want actions to be based on real data, because I'm like a bit of a science geek, rather than this like gut feeling. And so it was just, that was the starting point, really. Kind of equipping everyone with the knowledge to then learn and grow and take the next steps.
Okay, so you put out this survey and you got massive response. You got thousands of replies.
Yeah.
What did you learn? What are some? Give me a few key pointers that you learned from this survey.
So I think we have to start with the kind of the major headline, so to speak, which was that 99.6% of women either agreed or strongly agreed that the outdoors benefited their mental well-being. Of course, I felt that that was going to be kind of the overall answer, that they would agree. But to that extent, that's like, you know, when you round that up, that's up 100%, which almost sounds unbelievable. We all agree with it, but I was amazed it was so high. Interestingly as well, if you look at physical well-being, the same question, so how does the outdoors benefit your physical well-being? That came out at 99.7. So they're almost on a par. It's not that one is greater than the other. Women are going outside for both the mental and the physical benefits. I think historically we've always kind of like championed the physical benefits, but I was really pleased to see that the mental sits kind of equally alongside that.
So adventure helps women with their physical health and with their mental health.
Yes.
And the data backs that up beyond just our gut feeling hunch. So what?
So what? I think that's when you can kind of dive deeper into what the survey looked at. And I looked at sports, so specifically whether that's like climbing, hiking, biking, and actually the effect on well-being that those sports had. So that was done using, like, I won't go into like the full kind of full-on methodology.
Yeah, please don't.
I think everyone will fall asleep and won't listen. But basically, it looks at four key things. That's life satisfaction, happiness, anxiety, and worthwhile. And what I can do is I've looked at within my data how that changes for the different sports, and that is fascinating. Because certain sports prove to help or support different areas within those four better than others.
So could it be then that you could recommend sports for women according to what they're trying to get out of it?
I think that's certainly one angle. Or there's also on the flip side, looking at maybe where is, say if a sport has slightly higher anxiety than another, maybe that group could have a little more support in a certain way or area. So I think there's the potential for organisations to like act and support those women is huge.
And what sort of organisations have been interested in what you're doing?
So my main aim is for this data to actually drive real change. I'm not researching for the sake of kind of academia and science, although that is really important to me and something I want to work on. I really want this to be accessible data. I want anyone to be able to download a copy of the results, have a read, and be able to understand it. And there's a huge amount that you could take from that as a brand or organisation. Or if you're just interested, then you'll learn a lot too. It's definitely keeping it accessible. So what I'm trying to do in terms of who I'm working with, it's working with activity providers, brands and organisations that are looking to really act in those areas. This isn't about kind of massaging marketing statistics and, you know, patting ourselves on the back. It's about actually helping more women get into sport, supporting those in it, and really kind of crafting the way forward in a way that's really positive for society as a whole.
Trying to get more women doing more adventurous things interests me, because I think it's pretty unanimous that everyone would like to live more adventurously. I feel, unlike you, haven't done any research on this at all, but it's just a kind of gut feeling.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to live more adventurously.
Yeah.
But equally, I know from lots of anecdotal experience that something stops people living as adventurously as they like to, and that varies from different people. So, and it's often perhaps a lack of time or a lack of money. I think they're often the two big ones.
In the first Women in Adventure survey, the 3 barriers that were highlighted to participation for women were time, work, and money. That was some time ago now. It'd be really interesting to look at that again. But I think that's something that we all feel and agree with. It can be, those 3 quite basic barriers can be quite limiting.
Yeah. And yeah, time, work. I think work actually is kind of the same as time in a way. It's a similar sort of constraint.
I think it can vary for women. Time can have a number of factors on that. So whether that's on the say the sort of family-based side, whether whether women's are having lost my words. It's on the family side. It's say if a woman is mainly responsible for looking after children, or actually career as well. I think it's really important that it's not just one thing. And actually, I realise I've gone a little tangent here, but the most important thing, if I could have one message for this, it would be that there are many opinions. We're not going to find the one thing. What do women want? Oh, they want this. Great, let's do it, and we're sorted. This is an ongoing conversation, and we need to open that dialogue and talk and continue, because it's going to change, it's going to adapt. There's going to be more than one opinion. We just need to listen more.
Okay, and from your listening and from your research, I'd be interested in this side of what stops people, because there's the time, money, work, which I put them as practical barriers. And in my world, that's what Micro Adventures has been deliberately trying to deal with those things. But I'm really interested in the internal barriers, the mental barriers that stop us doing X, Y, and Z. And you and I talked earlier about the imposter syndrome, which I think is a classic thing. But what have you noticed about the internal barriers and obstacles that stop women getting into adventure?
I think it's quite varied and quite complex, but I think something that can be said is sometimes there is a trend for women to wait to feel like they are good enough instead of going and doing and maybe taking that leap of I'll just learn.
And then becoming good.
Yeah, it is that imposter syndrome of not wanting to look out of place, not wanting to look like you don't know what you're doing. And I think we can all relate to that. I'm not, when I say this and talk about the research I've done, I'm not discluding men. That's not an area I've looked at. So I don't want to say this is only what women think. But I know the majority of us can relate to that feeling of, going and trying something new, whether that's a sport or even going and exploring a new area where you just think, I've got no idea where I am. You don't want to feel that kind of complete beginner, a bit lost, a bit kind of bamboozled. That can be quite intimidating. And I think the fear of feeling like that can stop the initial impetus to go and do.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. What else? Any others that you can think of?
My brain's gone so blank.
Your brain's gone, it's okay.
I'm really sorry.
No, that's all right. Because I think this is certainly a universal thing, that the fear of looking like an idiot, the fear that you don't belong.
I think as well, fitting in and lack of knowledge. So within the mental wellbeing survey, there was actually an interesting number of women who spoke about wanting more knowledge, wanting more information. So maybe there is the impetus to go and do, but actually there needs to be the support for that as well. And that can come in so many different forms, whether that's, actual literal knowledge, like how to get into a sport or where to go or what clubs to join, or actually physically when it comes to equipment, having the clothing and equipment for the discipline, because actually there's a huge amount of belonging that comes from being able to kind of get the things you need to do the sport. And that was something specifically voiced by a number of women, especially who in the plus size range, they felt there was a lack of clothing and equipment for them to go and do and try, and that sometimes was holding them back from getting out there. I know it's a catch-22 because you shouldn't have to have, say, always have everything right at the beginning when you're starting up. But sometimes that can help get you into something, knowing I've got a pair of hiking boots. I'm going to go and do it. I'm ready. It's part of the preparation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay, couple more questions. If you had an extra hour a day
I'd be so happy.
to devote to this, what would you do?
To the research? Or
To the women in adventure world. 1 hour a day, every day.
1 hour's not enough. If I had 1 hour that I could...
Every single day,
I would not know what to do because there are so many things. I'd want to talk to people. I would want to get out there and actually show people and explain. And I'd love to be able to just help people get that impetus to go and do and encourage.
Okay, and how then do we actually do? How do you do this? How do you practically go from having a nice spreadsheet to actually getting more women up in the hills?
I think a lot of it is about a relatable role model. So you need to know someone or see someone or be influenced in a way and look at women who could be me. Someone you feel that could be you, and you can see yourself in them. So actually, they might not be doing exactly what you want to do, and they might be doing it at a higher level, but some aspect of their personality or their drive or what they're saying resonates. And if I had an hour, going back to this, if I could put more out there that resonated, not just from me, but from other women, that would be amazing.
Okay, so putting content out into the world of women like me doing X, Y, and Z. Is that something then that... Is this a job for brands and their choice of influencers?
I think it's all of us can do it. I think anyone who has a passion of the outdoors, we're all on social media. We've all, or if we're not on social media, you talk to your friends about what you do. I think it's just, if everyone made a little bit of effort to encourage, whether it's friends, family, social media audience, or from brands' point of view, their buyers, their customers, if we all made that effort, then I think there would suddenly be this huge kind of wave of very psyched outdoorsy people.
So you think we all need to go grab a woman we know?
That sounds a bit strange.
Yeah. And go canoeing, go biking, try and actively help take someone.
Yeah, go. It doesn't have to be epic. Go show someone what you love. If you love a particular walk because of a view, or if you love photography, or you have a climb that you think is easy but really good. Doesn't have to be. Let's go do something really epic. Pick something that's achievable but really cool, and go and show them and enjoy showing other people what you love doing. And then maybe it's cheesy, I think that's really infectious. And you know what, not just because there's so many different sports out there, whether it's climbing, mountain biking, road biking, running, fell running, there's different varieties within all of them. It's okay not to like some of them as well. I was definitely guilty of, when you try something and you're like, I must like it because it's outdoorsy and everyone loves it. Doesn't all have to be for you. So, if you want to try something, go and do it, but don't just stop there if that's not the one. And
try something else.
Yeah.
Okay, if I gave you £1 million to go get more women into adventure, what would you do with it?
It would go into research. I think the amount of accessible information and research surrounding the outdoors and mental well-being. I know I'm looking at women at the minute, but I'd be really interested, and I'm hoping to look at the kind of whole adventure community rather than just specifically women. If you gave me £1 million, I would do some really extensive research into mental well-being and devise an entire scheme about how we can better support everyone, not just women.
Okay.
You got it in your pocket?
Not yet. Not yet. Okay, and then the final question is, if anyone is listening to this who's interested in either the Women in Adventure project you're doing, or is a woman wanting to do more adventure, where should they go find out to get involved?
If you want to learn more about my research, just head over to womeninadventure.com. You can download a free, publicly available copy of the results of the survey, and you can also find out more about what I'm looking at now. And if you're into climbing, you can also check out Women's Trad Festival. So that's happening, hopefully not in this weather, but next weekend. And
okay. So that will have happened by the time this comes out, because next weekend I will be out on my bike
and
still.
It hopefully
but it's an
will
annual
be
event,
beautifully
hopefully.
sunny. Yeah, it's an annual event. And
where can they find out about that?
womenstradfestival.co.uk.
So if you're interested in starting climbing, learning climbing, daring to call yourself a climber, that's a good place for that.
Definitely.
Okay. Thank you very much for talking to me. It's very interesting to talk to someone in the adventure world with a brain. That's a rare
you, I'm
thing.
flattered.
So thank you very much.
No problem. It's lovely to chat.
Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Living Adventurously. There's show notes from every episode on my website, alistairhumphreys.com/podcast. If you have enjoyed it, please take a screenshot of your phone and pop it up on social media, or leave a review with your podcast provider. It makes a massive difference. Thank you very much. I teamed up with Komoot to make this podcast happen. In case you missed it, Komoot is an outdoor planning and navigation app that helps you explore more of the great outdoors. One of the many ways Komoot helps you have better adventures is with sport-specific routing. Komoot doesn't just plan any route. Oh no, Komoot plans your route. Select your sport, choose your start and end points, and Komoot plots a route using the best option for you. Whether that's smooth asphalt for your road bike, quiet gravel tracks for some chilled mountain bike riding or bike touring, or a road-free trail for your walk or ramble. After that, you can personalise your route even more by dragging the pins on your desktop screen or app to include your chosen destinations along the way of your adventure. Your very own outdoor experiences are waiting for you. Go explore more with Komoot. Head to komoot.com/G and use the voucher code ADVENTUROUS to claim your free region bundle.